Hi guys, it is Aoife from Fred We See Dead Laughing, and I am here with my weekly wrap up. So I got 4 books read this week so far. I am doing this a little bit early as I think I'll be probably a bit busy the rest of the weekend, so I may finish another book this week, I may not, but if I do I'll talk about that next week. So the first book I finished this week is a book I got in exchange for an honest review from Head of Zeus, and it was The Krill Stars by John Birmingham. This is the first book in, I think it's going to be a duology, and this is basically a big sci-fi adventure. This is about a world, basically this big space world, lots of galaxies, lots of different planets. There is Earth, but it seems like, you know, humanity has explored a lot of different space in hundreds of years, well, thousands of years, and now humans as well, they have a lot of different types of technology inside of them, things that can make us kind of learn skills really quickly, like we just have to download codes. People can people can die, but a lot of people, they choose to basically be reborn in different bodies, or basically a replica of the same body that they first had, and they can be reborn again and again and again. A lot of the times this is to do with kind of money as well. Some people who are on poorer planets who aren't treated as well, things do seem to be quite expensive in this world, so there are people who, if they die, they do die permanently, but a lot of other people can basically live forever in this world. And we do have a character who's over 700 years old, and we know that years and years ago, over 700 years ago, there was this big battle against people called the Sturm in this book, and this book basically starts off where the Sturm have come back, and they seem to be on their way to eradicating the way humanity is now, and they basically believe in this. They are actually humans themselves, but they don't believe in this extra technology that humans are using now. They believe in kind of the purification of the human race in a way, almost in like a xenophobic way. People do call them racists and fascists and stuff in this book. So I guess in a way they're xenophobic, but in kind of a more like techie way, where it doesn't really matter to them in terms of like race or religion or skin type or anything like that. For them it's to do with technology in the body and what people are doing inside of their body, but they are not a very nice people. So we are following a bunch of different characters in this book, and they all basically have something important to do with this big battle that is about to come with the Sturm. This is actually, when I picked up this book, I was really hoping it would be similar to the Expanse series by James S.A. Corey. It sounds a tiny bit similar, the type of world is similar, and I was just hoping it would be, and I was really happy to see that it is. And I think this is a really good not replacement, but it's a really good book to pick up if you want something similar to The Expanse, now that we're going to be having to wait a while for the next Expanse book. The way the chapters are laid out, the way the action takes place is so similar. The first 7 chapters of this book is basically us meeting each character we are going to be following, and then from then on we are getting alternate chapters of all the action that is going on in different parts of this world through all these different characters. We have characters in the military in this world, we have characters in the royal family, we have characters who are more like space pirates, we have some kind of more academic characters. So you're having characters from all kind of different forms of life, and with different experiences and different backgrounds, and different kind of histories to call upon. And we have characters who I have said have been reborn several times, characters who were on their first life, and it's all really interesting. The action in this book takes place very early on. Basically once we're through kind of the first 7 chapters or so, which is about between 50-60 pages, everything kind of kicks off, everything happens, and from then on it is just action packed throughout to the end. This is a book as well that, you know, a lot of the side characters are really fun and really lovable as well, but again you do kind of fear for their lives, and for even the main characters as well. You never really know who could just basically disappear in like plasma fire, at any point in the book. So yeah, the battles in this are quite epic. I did really enjoy how it was just how it was all played out. It was just really well paced for me, and I actually did read it quite quickly, and I really enjoyed that. As I said, definitely one for fans of the Expanse book, and just a really interesting look about like the future of technology and humans and stuff like that, even though this is obviously very far advanced. But yeah, and I would say I'm not sure if I would recommend this for people who aren't used to reading sci-fi. I would say this is one more for the more seasoned sci-fi reader, but I really enjoyed this. I give it a really strong 4 out of 5 stars. Stars, and I'm already looking forward to the next book, which probably isn't going to be out till next year, but I did really enjoy it. The next book I finished was Big Magic by Liz Gilbert. This is a non-fiction book, basically just about creativity and embracing your creativity and basically driving you to do whatever creative thing you want to do, whether it's painting or writing or music or anything like that. I really like Liz Gilbert. She is the author of Eat, Pray, Love. I read her latest fiction book just a few months ago called City of Girls, and I've listened to her talk when she came over to Dublin recently as well. She was talking and I went to that, and I'm really glad that I actually saw her talk, and I've listened to different podcasts that she's been on and stuff before reading this book, because I feel like if you kind of know what Liz Gilbert's voice sounds like and the energy and the enthusiasm she uses when speaking about creativity and speaking about her own creative process, I think will get a lot out of reading this book, because her words become her voice in your head, and I felt like I could hear her almost reading this book to me, because I have seen her talk and listened to her talk on podcasts and stuff, and I feel like that just really brought an extra element to reading the book for me. In terms of how she talks about creativity, I really enjoyed it. I love that she doesn't really do any like bullshit, like, you know, she doesn't go into deep like, you know, it's very surface level what she's talking about creativity, which I think is probably better, because I think people can get so bogged down in what creativity means and what it means to create and stuff like that, and really it is just this driving force for a lot of people. It's something that they have to do, and it's something that makes them feel better. And I like the fact that she kind of blows away that whole like tormented artist kind of thing, and she's like, you know, I need to be happy. If I want to write, I need to be happy. And I really like that she kind of approached that as well. Now, not to say, obviously, a lot of other people could have different opinions about this book. They could have different opinions about their own creativity. When it comes to creativity, I think people all have completely different experiences. So what could work for Liz Gilbert and thousands of other people might not work for someone else. But I really connected with the way she talked about creativity. I just really liked her approach to it. And I do feel really like I want to be creative now, and I want to write. My writing hasn't gone to plan this year at all. But next year, my goal next year is to, believe it or not, cut down on my reading and start writing more, because I feel like that's something I just really needed to do and try for myself. So that has made me want to do that more than ever, and I'm going to try and write as much as I can, or as more than I have been, before the end of the year is out as well. So I did really enjoy this, and I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. Next book I read is one I have seen pop up a bit on BookTube lately, and I knew as soon as I heard what this one was about that I wanted to read it, so I managed to get it on my library app, and that is Lovely War by Julie Berry. This is a historical novel. It is set during World War I, but the interesting thing about this novel, it is a love story, but the whole story is being narrated by Greek gods. So the story is mostly, because it's a love story, the story is mostly being narrated by Aphrodite as an example of one of her favourite ever love stories. And she is telling it to Apollo, Hades, Ares, the god of war, and then Hephaestus. I'm not sure if I'm saying that word right, but he was famously Aphrodite's husband, and they were basically forced into marriage by Zeus, and it wasn't really a love match, which is interesting considering Aphrodite is the god of love. And she is telling these stories to these other gods as an example of one of her greatest works, basically, and one of her favourite love stories. And she's kind of making them, I guess, believe in love in a way. And it's really interesting to see how all the gods have their own different parts in the story. Like, obviously it's set during World War I, which has a lot of like Ares. He had a lot of things to say about that as well. Creativity and illness, which is Apollo, and then obviously death, which is Hades. So yeah, I really enjoyed her telling the story. As for the story itself, I did really enjoy it. It's about basically it is a love story. It's about a girl called Hazel and a boy called James, and their love story as James goes off to war and Hazel tries to figure out how she can also help in the war effort. And then we are also getting a different love story set in France, and that is between Aubrey, a black American soldier during World War I, and Colette, a French girl, and they obviously are both friends with Hazel as well, and the 4 characters, their lives all kind of intersect. I really enjoyed the story for the most part. I found the love story, really, really sweet, very romantic. There was a point during this week when I was reading this book, and the day after I was trying to think about what I'd done the night before, and I was like, what was that movie I was watching? It was really good, I really enjoyed it. And then I realised I wasn't thinking about a movie, I was thinking about that book, and because it had become so vivid in my mind, I'd almost turned it into a movie because I felt like I could see everything like on almost like on a screen. And I love when that happens with books, so this definitely happened with this one. I will say I feel like the second half of the book sped up a little bit for me, and I felt like parts of it were a little bit rushed. And I definitely would have liked more with Aubrey and Colette's relationship, because I think they were actually more interesting than James and Hazel, because James and Hazel had a very like there was nothing about their relationship that was really strained or really, you know, out there or whatever. They were two English people who met and fell in love, and then he had to go off to war. Between Colette and Aubrey, Colette had suffered a lot being in Belgium during the war. She has felt like a lot of grief and has lost a lot of people that she really cared about. Then Aubrey obviously is dealing with a lot of racism in his life, and I feel like they were side characters, and I feel like they should have been more main characters. And I feel like their story was overshadowed in a way by James and Hazel, when I actually really wanted more of Aubrey and Colette, and I feel like their connection was actually almost stronger, and their chemistry was better than James and Hazel. As much as I like James and Hazel, Colette and Aubrey were, in terms of chemistry, they won outright. So yes, I did really enjoy this one, but I think it's more maybe of a 3.5 to 4 stars, and I do recommend it, but I just wish there were some things that had been a bit different in it. And the last book I finished was one of those NetGalley books that has been on my NetGalley list for a long time. It's one of like the oldest on my list, and I wanted to get it read. That is The Teachings of Shirelle, Life Lessons from a Divine Knucklehead by Douglas Green, and this is just kind of a non-fiction memoir about a guy and his dog, and him kind of talking about all the different life lessons he learned from his dog Shirelle. This one for me was just okay. I love reading any books, non-fiction or fiction, about dogs, and I did enjoy the different stories about her and how she helped in his life, but I did, for a while during parts of this book, I kind of felt like parts of the book didn't really need to be there, and it kind of almost felt like the author, Douglas Green, he maybe just liked his own writing. You know, like people who talk because they like the sound of their own voice. I felt like he was writing because he liked to read his own writing, maybe. I don't know. If it was kind of like the writing equivalent of he was talking to hear his own voice, basically. And I felt like that happened during the book. There were definitely parts near the end as Shirelle got older and he had to deal with her illnesses and stuff that I did definitely feel a little bit of a lump in my throat. Definitely as I am dealing now, Luna's getting a little bit older, and it kills me to see her being slow and her not really not really wanting to go upstairs because it's hard on her hips, and if she wants to get up in the bed I have to lift her up on the bed, and every time I have to do that it breaks my heart, because it just is it's a reminder for me that she's not young anymore and she is getting older, and it's something I do have to deal with, and I don't want to deal with it, and it's just the thought of what's going to come down the line later just really upsets me. So that did kind of bring that to me a little bit, and it was really sad, but it is really nice to see someone who loved their dog so much and whose dog meant so much to them and to other people in their lives. And yeah, so I gave this a 3 out of 5 stars overall, just because I don't feel like I got anything deep or meaningful out of it. I just liked a story about a guy and his dog. So that is everything I've read this week. Please let me know what you guys think down below as always, and I'll see you guys again next time. Bye.